I did a wedding a few years ago for a couple. The groom got up during his speech and said, when I was 5, I met Wayne. He did a magic show for my birthday and he made a coin disappear. And then he kept the coin and then he would kiss the coin for luck. And then he said, I've only ever kissed a coin twice in the last 2-3 years. 6 months ago when he asked his wife to marry him. And he goes, and I kissed the coin this morning. And everyone was like, ah. And then he reached into his pocket and brought the coin out and said, until we have children, I don't need the coin because I've got Mel, so I'm going to give it to her. And he gave her the coin. There wasn't a dry eye in the house. I was getting my back slapped by every single person because it's such a beautiful story. And it really brought home to me that, to some people, what we do is more than just a silly little trick. This kid kept this coin. It meant a lot to him. He kept the coin. He treasured it. It was his thing. He's now going to pass it on to his children. And so for me, doing a throwaway 2-minute trick where I make a coin disappear and slip it to the parents turned into this massive part of his life.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Desert Island Tricks. Another guest is about to be cast away on our Alakazam island, and he is a part of the Alakazam team. He's actually the last remaining member who we haven't recorded with. So today's guest is Wayne Goodman. Now, Wayne is an all-round entertainer. You would have seen him in lots of different ways, maybe on the lives or at different events, some lectures, dealer dems, and most recently he was at the Blackpool Magic Convention with his own stand, and he had an array of incredible different effects. He's someone who every time you see him, he'll have something else to show you, which shows that he doesn't get out much. So ladies and gentlemen, we do have Mr. Wayne Goodman. Hello Wayne, good to finally have you on.
How are we doing?
Good, great to finally have you here.
Do you know what? You say I don't get out a lot, but, when the lockdown happened, that was like paradise for me. I was just in, this is no different. I can survive.
How did you find putting your list together?
Very difficult. Very, very difficult. I've got a couple of questions I need to ask you. Nothing major, but we'll get to them when I get to them. I just want to clarify a couple of points. It wouldn't be me if I didn't have to clarify. But yeah, no, I think I've got a good list, and I might make a couple of small changes while I'm doing it. So I've got a list there, but I might have to change. I might throw in 2 and then go, okay, I'm going to get rid of that one and keep that one. So yeah, it depends how I feel at the time. Because some of them, it's really difficult. It's really difficult to go, yeah, this is the trick. This is the only version of this trick I can now perform. It's not an easy thing. When it's easy to think about it, but when you've got to actually do it, you go, yeah, I do love that really so much, but actually I don't want to do that other one. And which one do I want to do without more? It's difficult, very difficult.
Well, you are allowed as many honourable mentions as you want as well.
Oh, okay, that's good. Yeah, I can throw in. I've got a couple for that then.
Great, so let's get onto the format. If this is the first time you've listened to one of these, we are about to send Wayne to his own desert island. When he's there, he's allowed to take 8 tricks, 1 book and 1 non-magic item that he uses for magic. Particulars like who's there, is there an audience, is there a stage, all of that good stuff, we do not mind. It's all within Wayne's very crazy imagination, so we don't know where it's going to go. It's basically the ultimate list of tricks that Wayne could not live without. And with that being said, we're going to jump on, I presume, a unicycle or something when it comes to Wayne, and we're going to go to the island. So Wayne, what's in your first position?
So for me, this one was actually probably, of all the tricks I've got here, is probably the easiest one for me. With the second position coming in very close behind it. I know one of the rules is I can't say a deck of cards because I can perform 1,000 tricks with it. So I've got 2 decks of cards in my thing. I'm going to come back to them later. But for me, the one thing that I can't really live without, and I mean, I've got one in my hand now. I've always got them in my pocket. I've got a set in my bag. For me, it would have to be a set of Spongeballs. I love the Spongeballs. I think some of the things I do with them, my own things as well as classical routines, is some of the strongest magic I do. It happens in their hands. And I want to just digress very quickly and tell a very quick story that happened last week when I was at a family pub festival and I was doing a family show, mainly children's show, but a family show. And there was as I was waiting for the lady to come out to show me where I was officially going to set up, this lady saw my T-shirt, it says Magic Wayne on it, and she said, "Oh, we've got Magic Wayne." But I was quite away from home, so nobody knew me there. But this little boy who was about 11 got very excited. And I went over and I said, "Oh, what's your name?" And he went, "Charlie." And I said, "I've got a Charlie at home. Mine's a girl, Charlie." And I said, "Do you like magic? Do you want to see a trick?" And the mum said, "I'm really sorry. He's blind. He can't see anything." And I said, "Well, first of all, don't ever apologise. And secondly, just because he's blind doesn't mean he can't experience some magic." And I gave him a sponge ball and he felt it in his hand. And then while he was looking at it, I said, "I'm going to push it into your hand. I want you to close your hand around it." And I managed to do the move. And then when he opened his hand, he now had two balls in his hand. And he got so excited and he couldn't believe that somehow I'd magicked the second sponge ball into his hand. And his mum she got quite emotional. She said they've had magicians before who tend to just ignore him. And so for me, the sponge balls signify proper magic that you can do to anybody, regardless of whether they're blind, because they can feel them, can texturize them. I do it with SEN children and adults. It's been in my set for hundreds of years. So for me, the sponge balls has to go into spot number one.
Is there a particular routine that you would do with them?
So if I've got to narrow it down to one routine, I think I would just do what the very basic routine that I teach on the Amazing Magic Range sponge ball set. So you go from one ball to four. If I was allowed to do more than that, or to give a special mention, I have something that I do that I'm going to be doing on Unlimited. I'm not going to talk about it now. It's one of the strongest things I do when I'm working with families. And it's very, very magical and very, very special, and very, very cool as well. So maybe that one. And then I do like my shadow vanish that I do with coins and sponge balls, and that's a very magical vanish. And I do that all the time. So I suppose if I had to narrow it down, it'd either be the shadow or the basic routine, because they're the ones that are full of fun, very entertaining, very magical, very cool, and leaves a lasting impression with the spectator. So either one of those, really.
It's a great one to use, like you just said, for either sight impaired or blind people. I think that's a great idea.
Also with SEN children, I work a lot with SEN schools in my area. So for those who may be in another country or don't know what SEN is, special educational needs. I know you know that because you've worked in it as well. And I've worked with autistic children. I've worked with dyspraxic children. For another time, I can tell you, I was actually attributed with realising that dyspraxia was on the autism spectrum when I worked with a dyspraxic boy in the 90s. So I spent my whole life really working alongside with SEN children. And I find that, especially with children with autism, on that spectrum, they like texture and touch, especially if they're quite severe cases. And I think sponge balls are very soft, but they're also malleable and they've got some texture to them. So they can play with them, squeeze them, squash them up, fill them, and make themselves comfortable. And then I can just make them vanish, and it's very magical for them. You know, it's not like a coin which is hard and cold. It's not like some magic prop that they're not going to recognise, that they might be fearful of. A sponge ball, it looks like a clown's nose, first of all. It's a funny thing to have. And yeah, so it doesn't matter how old they are, and this goes into adults as well. It doesn't matter about how old they are or what their condition is. I've never had somebody get worried about the sponge balls at all. And they like it, they feel it, and they squish it, and they can feel the texture, and it comforts them. They like it. I've given away so many sponge balls to people because they've gone, oh, they don't want to give it back. They can keep it. It's fine. I've got 200 in the box. So yeah, that I think that one was the easiest one for me. That goes straight into spot number one.
Great. So what would be in your second position?
So coming in and this one as well, very, very easy, but I think this one would just come in slightly behind, and it's something that I've used all my magical career. Is a thumb tip. I'll never forget, when I was aged between 12 and 15, 16, I was in the Sea Cadets. My dad was ex-Navy and he wanted his 4 boys to go into the Navy. And I think he realised that it wasn't going to happen with me. My oldest brother did, and then none of my other brothers did. But I went away with the Navy quite often on ships and to bases and stuff. And I'll never forget being on HMS Cromer. It was our ship that was affiliated to our unit. And I went on there and I worked with 2 guys, Smudge and Shiner were their names. And Shiner, his name was James Wright. So Shiner Wright, he was Shiner. And the other guy's name was Smith. So he was called Smudge. I used to do tricks on the ship. They used to love it. I was always welcome on board. And then they said about this other guy who had a Thum Tip and was using it to get free drinks in the pub by putting a cigarette into his hand. And so he showed it to me, and I could never believe that he would fool anybody with it. And then he fooled me about 4 times with it, doing different things. And it really showed me how strong and powerful it was. And I couldn't wait to get my own one. And since then, I mean, during the height of my career in Spain, when I was working over there doing 5, 6 shows a night, I would use this method twice in my show. They would have 2 outings in my show, which is quite a bold and a large percentage of my show given over to repeating a method. But it was great. So I would have it either with a silk or for a bill switch. Probably the bill switch, because that's what I use it mainly for now. I was once challenged to do a full 45-minute show with just that, but which I did. But yeah, that would go into my second spot. That's an essential part of my kit.
Good shout. It's one that I think we've had a lot, and we're going to have a lot. I do think it's one of the only things that we have in our industry crosses over into every genre. So it can be used for billets, it can be used for bill changes, it can be used to make something vanish, it can be used in manipulation acts. Matt Mello even has a really interesting use for it with he's got a trick called, I think it's called Invisible Object or something like that, and it uses it in a completely different way. So it really is something in magic that
you can use it in kid shows, you can use it in close-up, stage. Yeah, I think it is a very versatile, and there's variations as well, like writers that you can use for mentalism. It's essentially the same prop, but with an additional bit. I remember the very first keybender used one, and you know, there's lots of it's got so many uses. But again, it's always in my pocket. It's always in my bag. I've got hundreds of them. I've got them in every single case, including my kid show cases. You never know, and you can make up stuff with it. You can. I've done. You know, I need to do something. Oh, I can do something with that. There, give me that torn napkin. Stick it in. It's gone. You know, I can. It's such a great little additional prop. It doesn't surprise me that it's been mentioned, you know, before, because it's one of those things that, yeah, I can't be without it. That would definitely be in the second spot.
Great choice. And that leads us on to your third item. So what's in your third spot?
So I'm going to mix things up a little bit now, and I'm going to kind of go in a different direction with it now. For me, the number 3 spot has to be taken up by my best friend, who's been by my side since I was 13 years old. I've had multiples of these, and my mum's still got my first one, which is very worn and very battered. And he's been all around the world with me, and that's, of course, Rocky Raccoon. I love Rocky. I've got 5 of them here in the house, including a Fox version that I got from Mike Wallace when he had his stand in Yarmouth, which he gave to my daughter, actually, which I've kind of stolen from her, which is called Foxy. So I've got 4 Rockies and a Foxy. I've actually even got, apparently it's the only one in the world, I've got a very small baby one that was made as a prototype and not wanted. So I was given it many years ago, and I've got baby Rocky in my case as well. So if I'm doing a kid show, and again, at this pub thing, the last few kids to come over, so at the end of my kid show, I get all the kids in a line. They all walk up one at a time. They stroke Rocky. They hug him. While they're hugging him, they turn. Their parents take a picture of them holding Rocky. And then when I take him back, I tickle him on the nose with his tail. And then they run off to go and sit down for the food. And it's always a couple of little ones at the end, or shy ones at the end. And I tend to drop Rocky and I bring out baby Rocky, and they're never they're never worried about meeting him, and he's really cute and really small. So yeah, Rocky Raccoon goes into into third spot for me. I can't do a show without Rocky. I've got the zigzag Rockies. I want to get that one where you stick them in a box and it's got the X-ray machine. You open it up, it's just a wire, which the kids will think is funny, but won't realise that is actually what an X-ray of Rocky would look like. a swelled up like string wire in the middle of it. It just looks cool to connect the boxes, but actually, yeah, that's actually what he would look like if you X-rayed him. Yeah, Rocky at number 3, definitely. I remember when I first got it and I told him, he cost me the first one. I mean, they cost like 180 quid now. And my first one cost me 35 quid. And I showed it to my mate and he went, mate, you've been seen off. You've been done there, mate. 35 quid for a teddy bear. And it looked awful when I did it. It looked awful. It didn't look real, didn't look good. And then a friend of mine who does a bit of work with puppets, he said, I know what your problem is. You don't believe he's real. And if you don't believe he's real, why should the audience? Why should they invest their disbelief in it if you don't believe it? And it changed everything. And like I say, he's been all around the world with me. Every single ship I worked on, all the years in Spain, Rocky Raccoon was right there and an integral part of my act. So I love him. I can't be without him. He's definitely in the bag.
Great choice, and one that I'm surprised we haven't. I don't believe we've had it before.
Really?
But it's such a classic prop. I'm surprised that we haven't had it. My question for you is, how do you use it?
I do. So obviously, I do a lot of the classic routine that David Williamson made famous. I have a few extra bits with it as well. It's one of those things. I'd have to. It's hard to explain how it works, but for me, Rocky's very cheeky. He comes out. A friend of mine made a hat, but it was like a yarn, not yarn, and they made this hat, this black hat, woolen hat, and Rocky fits perfectly inside it, and I can put it on my head. So I tend to bring the hat out. The children say magic hat at the beginning. I bring it out and show it, and I have him going face into the hat. And I take his tail in, and I get them out and say, we're going to wake up Rocky. When I shake it, everyone shout, wake up Rocky, and they do. Doesn't work the first time. When I shake it again, his tail pops out, and I go, oh, that means he's awake. And you see some of the parents looking at you as like, right, what's he got in the hat? Because they're expecting you to bring out some glove puppet or some marionette type thing. You go, and I call him a puppet pet. And I found this has stopped the children going, it's not real, it's not real. So I call it a puppet pet. And the ones that understand puppets then go, oh, it's a puppet, you see it was a puppet. And the ones who don't understand it hear the word pet and think he's real. So I go to puppet pet and I shake the hat and his tail comes out. And then when I bring him out, he runs up my body, he jumps, he eats out of my hand. And then if I've got a couple of kids in the front who I know won't get upset, I hurtle him at the kids in the front row and they all brick it and oh! And then I tell them it's his way of saying hello. And then I go across and I feed, they all hold out their hand and they feed from the hand. And then I got to one of the dads that I've been picking on in the show and I turn it around to make it look like he's pooping in his hand, which the kids think is very, very funny. And then, then I do the disco dance. I do a thing in my kids show where I'm constantly picking on one parent. So all the way through the show, I'm getting that parent involved. And just humiliating them in a lovely way. They all love it, but it is constant. Every single trick, they get some part of involved in it. And when it comes to Rocky, I do the moonwalk thing and the disco dancer. I like to move it, and he does a moonwalk. And then I just hold him by the head and shake his tail. And it looks like he's wiggling his hips. And I say, look, he's doing the floss, but he hasn't got any arms. And I say to the kids, who here can floss? And a few hands go up. And I say, right, everyone stand up, floss in 3, 2, 1, go. And they all start trying to do what they think is the floss. Very funny. And I say, you look amazing. You look brilliant, but do you want to see? And I point to myself and I go, do you want to see a professional doing the floss? And they'll go, yeah. And I go, go on then, Dad, or whoever, Jeff. And I make that grown up then stand up and do the floss as well, which is hilarious. And then Rocky comes back, and then they all make a nice line, like I say, and they'll give him a cuddle and feed him, cuddle, and then tickle on the nose with the tail. and then they all head off. I don't do a big finish to my show where I get a big round of applause. I can't stand that. It's not about me. It's about the birthday child. So I send them off to the parents, and then if any parents stick around, they give me a clap, and that's good enough for me. But yeah, Rocky literally ends the show, and he's just brilliant. He's just a brilliant prop. And I couldn't even think to do a kid show without him being the end of it.
Great choice, and that brings us to your halfway point. So what's in your fourth position?
So I've got two tricks here, and I'm going to choose one of them. I'm going to choose one. So the first one is they're both old Supreme props, and I'm sad to say that you can't really get them anymore. They still do come up for sale sometimes second hand, and I try and grab them if they do because I'm always after spares. The first one is called Wizzy Dizzy Milk, and it's a beautiful wooden box that you pour milk into. You turn it over, pour milk in it, keep turning it over, keep pouring in milk. Then you bring out a glass, it vanishes, and it reappears back in the box again. And I bought it for Summer Fate that I was doing. I always wanted it. It was an expensive prop, but I bought it. And it's been in my act ever since. I've adapted it and changed it quite a lot to make my own routine. But yeah, Wizzy Dizzy Milk is amazing. And I was going to have that in the fourth position, but I'm going to give that honourable mention because for number 4, I'm going to name the generic type of trick this is, and then I'm going to whittle it down to the one that I use. But it's the die box, which for me works great with adults, with kids. I use it so I've got the one we sell at Alakazam with the one that comes apart, the split one. I think it's by Mr. Magic. It's a beautiful prop. You take the dice, you put it into the box. They can hear it moving around inside. You keep opening up the wrong door and it's not there anymore. The one that I use in my kids shows and one that I've used again for about 35 years now is Supreme's Man in the Moon, which is essentially a die box, but instead of being a dice, it's a disc with a moon with a face on it, and it goes backwards and forwards, it disappears eventually and reappears back inside the first box, and it pops up and down. You don't see it until you do, and it's great. And that's the end of my kid show, really. I finished my kid show with that and then go into Rocky Raccoon. And it's so brilliant. The kids, they're screaming. They're so angry because they can't. I'm not seeing it. Or not angry. They're frustrated because I'm not seeing it and they can see it. And my favourite bit is when I take the first time and I put it behind the cloud because the two doors have got like clouds, and I literally say, "Boom, he's gone," and I tilt it and it rolls down and makes this really audible clunk as it hits the bottom of the box. And then I open up the first door, look, he's gone. And they do not waste any time in telling me, the other one. Then I'm tilting it and I'm opening up the other one. And I've got a lovely line that I use when the kids go, you keep tilting it. And I point to my left elbow and I go, no, I banged my elbow on the way in. I've got to keep moving it, otherwise it really hurts. Which I haven't done that all the way through for the last hour. I've not once mentioned my elbow or done anything with my elbow. And then I'll go, oh yeah, my elbow's really sore because I banged it. And they're all screaming at me. And it's an organised chaos. It's very much structured. My show's structured to build up to that point, but I maintain control so that they're not going to hurt themselves or get too excited or run off, whatever. They're all just completely invested in what I'm doing. So the colouring book, the linking loops, all these other tricks that I've done throughout my show have built up to this moment where they're just losing their minds, but it's controlled in a way that, yeah, they're not going to do anything silly, and then it all works out in the end. So, yeah, I think if I had to pick one trick to go into the number 4 spot, it'd be Man in the Moon. It's just beautiful.
And there's so many different versions of the die box that we don't think about. I mean, I remember when I was younger, this is obsolete now, obviously, because time's moved on, but they used to have a CD version, which did very, very well.
I have that in my loft.
Yeah. But of course, well, CDs, no one's going to know what those are now. And yesterday, actually, at the time of recording this, Harry showed me one with a close-up version with a coin, which
yes, it's
I
great.
loved as well. I think it's great.
It's brilliant. It's so beautiful, like a little tiny pocket version. Yeah, it's amazing. Well, I've got 2 of the Supreme ones. I've got Man in the Moon, and I've got exactly the same prop, exactly the same thing, but it's a brick wall and it's Humpty Dumpty. And that's part of my Journey Through Wonderland show, which is my under 5 show. And again, it's just brilliant. And the kids love it and they can relate to it. And yeah, it's such a great trick. And again, very magical, very magical.
It's one of the ones that harbours a response without you needing to do a lot. So the whole, when you see it sliding over and you hear it, what was interesting was when Harry posted the one yesterday, in the close-up version, there is a purposeful slit in the middle, which I believe the CD version used to have as well.
Yeah, so they can see it going across.
So they can see it going across. And then when you look at the comments to that video, I think that the third one in is a legitimate response to that. We can see it going over. They just don't quite connect always with, that's part of it.
Yeah, beautiful.
Which just shows how well it's constructed. It does what it needs to do well.
There's plenty of tricks out there that advertise themselves as being comedy magic, and then you look at it and you go, yeah, no, that's really not. Maybe you can add a bit of comedy or it suits your style, but I wouldn't class that as comedy magic. And in some circles, especially with my friends who I talk to quite a lot, we often talk about, there's a new comedy magic trick, and we look at it and go, yeah, I don't know why they've called it that, because it's not funny or it's not great. It's not a comedy magic trick. And in some of them, you have to really put a lot of work in to try and make it funny. And then you've got Man in the Moon and or the Die Box, and it's effortless. It just gets laughs. It is. If someone said to me, "What is the best comedy magic trick?" It would be that, because it's simple to follow. You do next to nothing. It does it all itself, and the audience, they run the trick themselves. The trick lasts as long as the kids keep shouting at you or the people keep laughing. This trick literally controls itself, and when they're starting to click onto what's going on, that's when you move on to the next stage of it, and it's just a beautiful effect.
Great choice, and that brings us over your halfway point to
Boom.
Position number 5. So what do you have in the 5th position?
Unequal ropes. Nice and simple. I've always loved the rope tricks. I do a number of different rope tricks in my set. I do the Awakening, I do ring on rope, I do cut and stored rope, I do walking knot. I have lots of different rope tricks that I can go to, and I love them all. I've got a nice optical one where you show 2 bits the same size and they become one long and one short optically, which is beautiful. But Professor's Nightmare for me is just a classic of magic, and it's something that I just love performing, and I can do it in my kids show, I can do it in my stage show. It's one of those tricks I often do in my family cabaret show towards the beginning of the show, because it enables me to get a couple of kids up. And if I'm not going to be getting a lot of kids up in the show, they come up at this point and they get their moment. They're not part of the trick necessarily, they're helping, then they go and sit down, and I've used the kids. So I've got them up and now they can go and sit down. And now I can move on to worrying about the adults, or not worrying about the adults and ignoring the kids, but not worrying about the kids. Nobody will say, we didn't get the kids up in the show. They've been involved, they've been part of it. But I love the Professor's Nightmare. I think it's an amazing trick. Very visual, very magical, very clever, completely fooling. And it's one of those ones that, again, you're not really doing that much. You can put all your effort into the presentation and you've got yourself a killer trick that people are going to love. And it doesn't matter if they're little kids or they're granny and granddad, they're going to like the trick. It's very simple to watch and enjoy and know what's happening without having a clue as to how it's done. So, and if you want to learn my Professor's Nightmare or my handling of it, it is on Unlimited. And you should definitely go and check that out.
Yeah, it's a superb trick. Professor's Nightmare is always going to be a classic of magic. And I mean, I've seen it done on the streets of London at Magician's Corner in Covent Garden. I've seen it done at close-up shows. I've seen it done on stage. It really is an anytime, anywhere routine that packs in the smallest of places and plays massive.
Yeah, 100%, 100%, and fits in your pocket. I mean, it's so versatile. So, yeah, that's definitely in the set.
When I perform at gigs, I look at effects that tick these 3 boxes. Is it super strong and powerful? Yes. Will it last with your spectators for a lifetime? Absolutely. And does it leave them with a souvenir that perfectly captures the moment of magic? If that all sounds exactly what you're after, look no further than the liquid forks. These forks have been custom designed to be able to bend right in front of your spectators' eyes. It's so easy to perform, it's so visual, and trust me, they will honestly keep this impossible object because they've seen it morph in front of their eyes. It literally does the impossible. Not only that, Liquid Forks comes with 50 of these forks in each pack, and it comes with the full Liquid Forks routine taught by the world famous David Penn. Not only that, we have a subscription service. If you guys love these forks and you get through them at your gigs, we now offer a monthly subscription where you get sent a box through every single month at a 10% reduced fee. Like I said, you guys are going to be loving these. You're going to be performing them every chance you can. Trust me, the reactions are second to none. So guys, head over to alakazam.co.uk, pick up a set of liquid forks. You will not regret it. Easy to do. Leaves them with a killer souvenir. And to be honest with you, it's not cards, it's not coins, it's not mentalism. It's something beyond belief. Check it out now, guys, the liquid forks.
Great choice, and that brings us on to number 6. What's in your sixth position?
So the next, I've got 2 here, and I'm going to choose one of them. It's funny actually because Henry Ferris posted about one of these earlier on Instagram and tagged me in it. So this is quite vain because they're both mine, but I'm a little bit torn here. So first of all, one is Sam the Bellhog, which is my version of Sam the Bellhop, which I'm releasing very, very soon. This isn't a plug, but I might as well take advantage of it. So Sam the Bellhog, which is my version of Sam the Bellhop. I've been doing it for nearly 25 years now. In fact, no longer than 25, nearly 30 years now. 1995, I think I first had my first deck made. And it is just a beautiful storyteller deck that is just, I love it. So, in fact, once I finish filming this today, I'm going to be filming the instructions for it, and I'm hopefully going to have that out in the next couple of months. But I'm also torn between that one and my insurance card, Magician's insurance card. And I think I'm going to fall on the side of the insurance card. In fact, I'm going to go Magician's insurance card 2, no claims bonus, because that's the one that I use more than the other one. There's 2 of them. And if you go to Alakazam, to the website, and you search up Magician's insurance card 2, you can see the video of it. It's a great, fun routine. But the reason why I think I'm coming down on the side of this one at the moment is because this is one that fits in my wallet. And I wanted one of the tricks on here to be something that fits in my wallet. I do need a deck of cards with it as well, although sometimes I do just use a quiver case, etc. But let's throw a pack of cards with it as well. So that's obviously that cards are just for that trick. But yeah, the Magician's insurance card 2 for me is just a beautiful, versatile, very funny. Again, all the comedy is built into it. It does all the work for me. And I've got to give Peter a big thank you because he came up with one of the gags for me. He gave me one of the gags. It's got great gags. It's got great magic, great reveals. So yeah, Magician's insurance card 2 by Wayne Goodman.
So the Magician's insurance policy, for those who don't know the routine, the idea is that you would have a card selected. You show that you have this Magician's insurance policy. The trick goes wrong. You don't get their card. You say, you know what, let me get this insurance policy out. The trick has gone wrong. When they read through this insurance policy, it then reveals the actual selection that they chose in various different ways.
It used to be a big bit of paper that went in your, like it would fit in your inside jacket pocket. It was a big prop. It would open up and open up and open up. It was beautiful. It was great. Obviously, it was a big influence for this. My one is just a credit card size card. It's made of plastic. It's basically a credit card, and it goes in my wallet. And then you bring it out bit by bit, and it reveals. And it's funny because I tend to use this now more when, and it happens every gig. Somebody will go, "Do you ever have a trick go wrong?" And I used to say, "Oh yeah, you know, but it's how you deal with it that and try and blow it off." But now I go, no, never ever had a trick go wrong. Never happened. Look, I'll show you a trick. Guaranteed it'll work. And then I go into the trick and it doesn't work. And it gets a really big laugh because I've just been so bold and brazen. And those who see me perform, I don't do this in an arrogant way. It is done in a comedic way and I'm kind of playing it off. and then it goes wrong, and then I bring out the credit card. And the way credit card two, insurance card two is designed is it's designed to come out of the wallet bit by bit, and the reveals happen, and then you turn it around for the two gags on the back. And it's just a really nice routine. It's a really nice trick that it's got comedy, it's got magic, but it fits in your wallet. And when I was putting this list together, I wanted stuff that I can grow in my pockets, but I wanted at least one of them to fit in my wallet and just be, boom, it's always there.
And in fairness, everything on your list so far, bar the die box, can literally fit in a small close-up case. You've got Spongeballs, Thum Tip, the Rocky Raccoon will squish down. It's not
squish in there.
Yeah. Equal, unequal rope, and now something that you have in your wallet. So it shows that you're ready to do an entire show's worth of magic at the drop of a hat without really much on you.
Yeah. When I worked on the ships and when I worked in Spain, I would have to zoom between one show and another. So my show box, which was a 12-inch record box that opened up, half the lid opened up, everything had to fit inside there and had to, pretty like the unequal equal ropes, there had to be an instant reset. I couldn't be faffing around because I've got 5 shows to do this evening. So it's got to be boom, boom, and with the exception of my final trick, Hot Shot, I would set that beforehand, or the gimmicks, I'd have 5 of them made up. Everything had to reset instantly, otherwise I can't do it because I haven't got time to do it between shows. So things like bill switch, things like unequal equal ropes, they've got to be able to just be dropped in the bag, and I can just reach in and grab them and carry on with them, straight away. Which is why a lot of my stuff is like that.
Great choice. And that brings us onto the tail end of your 8 tricks with number 7. So what's in your 7th position?
It's getting hard now. It's getting really, really hard. I've got 2 choices here again. I'm going to whittle it down to 1. First of all, it would be Hot Shot, which is my gun trick, which is a stage item. It's a 15-minute routine. It's crazy. It's very, very funny. And it's been the closer of my act for 35 years now. I'm getting ready to release this as a product because I'm retiring it out of my show. I'm doing less and less cabaret shows now. And so I'm going to retire this and open it up to the community to have it. It's a great trick. It's really fun. And I love it. And keep an eye open because I will be posting up some trailers and you'll see a bit of the routine. If you've seen me perform, you've seen me do this at conventions, etc., you'll know this is just a bonkers 15 minutes of comedy and stupidity that ends with a nice trick at the end of it. So I'm torn between that and something that isn't mine. I did have ring and rope in there as well because I've done ring and rope for years as well, since I was 12, and I love ring and rope. My routine's a bit of a cross between David Williamson's ring and rope and Francis Tabaret's rope routine, and this predates things like fibre optics. This was the original routines that these guys did. And I kind of like did a blend with a few of my own bits in there as well. So I love the ring and the rope. But for me, it'd either be Hot Shot or it would be Nut Waltz by Mario Joni. And if you've not seen Nut Waltz, it's a beautiful piece of theatrical magic. You have a bit of paper. The way I do it, I get a bit of paper and I make it into a tube in front of the audience, put a bit of sellotape on it, and I make it into a tube. You have a glass, and in the glass you have 3 walnuts. You take them out, you bash them together, and then one at a time the walnuts disappear. You place the paper tube over the glass, you pick up one of the walnuts, you make it disappear, and then you lift up the paper, and inside the glass is a walnut. And you repeat that 3 times. It's a really beautiful piece of magic. I've done it many times. I did it on my lives during lockdown. I do it in my parlour shows. It's a very clever, beautiful, elegant piece of magic that really, when I'm performing, it shows that I've got a little bit of skill. I can show off with this one without being too arrogant or brazen about it. I can say, well, I'm going to do something a bit clever for you now, and I go into it. And it's a bit, for me, it's a bit like the ring and rope. Actually, it hasn't got that many gags built into it. It's a serious piece of magic. People like that, and it's a bit of a contrast to the rest of the show. So before I go into Hot Shot or something a bit crazy, I will do Nut Waltz and it just kind of brings them back down again, like a palate cleanser, and they can see, wow, this guy actually has got some skills. And I don't think they think that, but it just shows that there is a different side to what I'm doing as well. It's not just a crazy idiot. This is somebody who's actually got some proper skills and can do some proper magic. It's a bit like when you watch Charlie Fry, and 1 minute he's juggling with knives and all that kind of craziness. The next minute he's doing the most awesome sleight of hand with billiard balls. So, it's sort of like, it's a nice contrast of night and day. And yeah, I think nut waltzers are beautiful. Alakazam said it as well. It's a beautiful, beautiful little trick. The gimmick's great, and the whole thing just flows. And it does it all for you. So you can really concentrate on the presentation, the performance of it. If I had to choose, I think it would have to be Hot Shot. It's never let me down. It's been my companion again for over 30 years. It's such a beautiful trick. Something I'm so proud of, and I'm very excited about bringing it to market. But yeah, and I will miss it as well, but I'm keeping a couple of sets here for myself. Well, the tagline for the trick is, shooting a spectator has never been so much fun. I get an audience member up, one audience member. I've been very lucky, with the exception of maybe 3 times or 4 times, I've picked the wrong spectator. I always get a good spectator. And when you see the trailer for it, the guy I got up on this one, I'm very particular, and I normally don't pick people when they go, oh, can you pick my mate for that trick, right? Because it's like, they're going to be awful. I don't want to risk it. But this one was filmed at Shidey with Craig Petty, and Craig went, please pick this guy. And he'd never seen the gun trick, and he went, please pick this guy. I went, okay. And I got him, and he was amazing. He was just the perfect guy for it. So I get him up on stage, he signs a card gets a jumbo card, goes back into the pack. And then we put on a play, a robbery. He's a thief, I'm a policeman. And then I fire a gun that no one knows about at him while he's running off stage. I shoot him. The whole audience jumps. It's a beautiful moment. And then when you go through the cards, there's one card, his signed card, has a hole blown through the card. Not cut, not torn, but physically blown. It's got all the crispy bits on it, and you can wipe it off. And it's blown through the card, and they get to keep the card. So when I lived in Spain, I would have people saying to me, we came and saw you for the last 3 years, and you finally picked my dad for it, or you finally picked me for it. I've been wanting one of these cards for 3 years, etc. It became a bit of a collector's thing. People wanted the card. I've had emails and Facebook messages from people years after I saw them. They found me on Facebook and sent me a picture in their living room. The card with the hole in it is in a frame in their living room. It's become a major thing. So yeah, that would be number 7?
Number 7.
Boom, look at that.
Excellent choice. Yep, sounds excellent. It sounds like a really good, fun little bit of theatre, actually. Sounds really fun.
I'm hoping to, I've advertised it that I'm going to be releasing it on July 17th. It's going to be a very expensive prop. It's a proper, what you're getting is the kit you're getting with it is amazing. I'm astounded by how beautiful it looks. But I will be posting up some trailers for it. So yeah, you can check it out. It's great.
Great choice. And that brings us on to your last item. So what's in your last position?
So last position really was another one that I would have put in at number 1 or number 2, to be fair. But my last position is my magic coin. And I used to do this with a metallic coin. I now have my own little casino chips made up that I do with that. And it's a trick that I came up with as a bit of a gag, really, just to get the kids away from me once I'm trying to pack up. I said, I'll do this for you, but then you've got to leave me alone to pack up, etc. I have a coin disappear. I sit with one child. And if there's a few kids, I'll pick the youngest one. And I show them my magic coin. I've got a lovely little coin wallet I open up with lots of different coloured ones. They can choose a coin. The coin vanishes and it appears under their pillow the following morning in their bed, wherever they're sleeping. That night, it will appear under their pillow in the morning. Obviously, recruited the parents to help with this. But it's one of the strongest things I do. And to this day, I've got hundreds of photos of kids holding up coins, hundreds of emails from parents saying that their child fully believes in magic now. They're fully invested in it. I introduced my daughter to a girl and they became best friends. And the first time they met, I did it on Octavia's brother and sister. And then the mum, later on that evening, she sent me a video of them running into the house, running straight up. They didn't know that Sophia, the oldest sister, who was nearly 20, had gone into the house first, set it all up for me. The kids ran into the house. This time it was a car, didn't have a coin on me. But they run straight to the bed with the cameras on, and they lift up the pillow, and there's the card with his handwriting on it under the pillow in their bedroom, even though I don't know where they live. And I've gone the opposite direction. It's just amazing. And my favourite thing, I think we've spoken about this before, my favourite ever story of this was I did a wedding a few years ago for a couple, and the groom got up during his speech and said, when I was 5, I met Wayne. He did a magic show for my birthday, and he made a coin disappear, and then he kept the coin, and then he would kiss the coin for luck. So when he did his GCSEs and his A-levels, he kissed the coin, he passed them all. Did his driving lessons, he did his degree, he kissed the coin every time, he passed them. And then he said, I've only ever kissed a coin twice in the last 2-3 years. 6 months ago when he asked his wife to marry him, and she said yes. And he goes, and I kissed the coin this morning. And everyone was like, ah. And then he reached into his pocket and brought the coin out and said, until we have children, I don't need the coin because I've got Mel, so I'm going to give it to her. And he gave her the coin. There wasn't a dry eye in the house. I was getting my back slapped by every single person because it's such a beautiful story. And it really brought home to me the essence that, you know, to some people, what we do is more than just a silly little trick. You know, some people take it away and it's really serious. It means a lot to them. And this kid kept this coin. It meant a lot to him. He kept the coin. He treasured it. It was his thing. He's now going to pass it on to his children. And in some ways, I genuinely believe the way he told the story that he credited him kissing that coin for luck. I never told him to kiss the coin, by the way. He just took it on himself to kiss the coin. But he credited kissing the coin with passing his exams. And that's not a small thing. That's a major part of his life, in the fact that every time he had an exam, he would kiss the coin to bring him luck, to get him through it was his lucky coin. And so for me, doing a throwaway 2-minute trick where I make a top coin disappear and slip it to the parents turned into this massive part of his life. And you know, I think sometimes we dismiss ourselves the power of what we do. And yeah, I've got we've all got loads of stories about people we've met, and you know, the little boy who I did the Spongeball trick, who was blind, that was a special moment for him, you know, and something that he'll remember. And we forget that we can have that kind of an impact, but it's down to us. It's our attitude, and we've got to go, right, but I can use these powers for good. You know, I'm not Spider-Man, but you know, we can use what we do for good, and it brings a little joy, it brings a little happiness. So be it. And you know, we've got these gifts, let's use them. Getting a bit preachy now, aren't I?
No, that's great. It sounds like a really nice routine, actually. It sounds really, really nice. The idea that the magic continues way after the event, I imagine it's really, really magical for a young person, but even older people.
There is another little tiny thing here I just want to add onto this. My granddad was a real joker, like a proper joker, and he was a very funny man. Recently I was with my friend Tom Maloney and his daughter. She's 4 at the time, and she spent the whole time I was in the house either on my lap, on my back, or trying to wrestle me to the ground, or chasing me around the house. She was a lovely kid. And I do this thing called pat a cake. I used to do it with Charlie, where they stand in front of me, I take their hands and I clap their hands together, pat a cake, baker's man. I don't do it hard, but at some random time when they're least expecting it, I slap themselves in the face with their own hand. And it doesn't hurt, I don't do it hard. And I go, what'd you do that for? Right? And they're like looking at it and go, like, pat a cake, but why did you slap yourself in the... And my granddad used to say to me, it was hilarious, I used to laugh my head off every single time. So when I used to go to middle school and upper school, I had to walk past my granddad's house. He was actually my great-grandfather. I'd walk past his house every day, twice a day, once on the way there, once on the way back. And so if it was a hot day or it was raining, I'd often stop it there for 5 minutes. If it was really hot, I'd go in and get a drink or whatever. And he'd always go to me, all right, son, how you doing? All right, yeah, blah, blah. Oh, you need some, oh, your shoelaces undone, or, you know, here's £1, don't tell grandma, you know, and all that kind of stuff. And then, but whenever I left the house, he'd always say to me, Wayne, never, ever, ever look inside this box. And he had a little wooden box by the side of his chair. It was about the same size as the Kennedy mystery box. It might have been a Kennedy, I don't know actually, but I had this little box there. It looked like one. And for years, so from the age of when I was about 10 years old, 10 years old up until I was about 15 when he died, every time I went to his house, we'd be talking about whatever, go to the parents, and at the end of it, he would go, Wayne, 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 never, ever, ever open that box. And when he passed away, my nan called the house and told us, and I went on the phone, and she said, Grandad Crow left you something. So I ran up to the house, about a mile away, and I got this box. He left me the box. And I remember running home with it. I didn't dare open it. I ran home with it. I went up to my bedroom, and all I've ever wanted to do was open this box, right, obviously. And I know you know what the punchline's going to be, but I opened up the box, and inside was a very old, very tattered, very brown and grey bit of paper. And on it he'd written, Wayne, I told you don't look inside the box. And I've still got that at home in my mum's house. It's in storage at my mum's house. And it's an old gag. I didn't see the punchline coming because I was 14, 15. I'd never heard that gag before. And I laughed. I remember crying on my bed with laughter at just the stupidity of it. But since that day, and this is where it becomes relevant to this, since that day, I think about that probably at least once a day or once every couple of days. And for me, it's so important because my granddad did a joke on me for years that he knew he would never see the punchline of. He would never get the payoff. You know what I mean? That to me is just the most craziest, funniest, amazing. That's probably the most magical thing I've ever had happen to me. My granddad did a joke on me. He knew he would never get the reward, the laugh. That he knew he'd never get that, and he still did it. And to me, that's amazing. And my little gesture towards this kind of thing back is the coin under the pillow. I don't get to see the payoff. I don't get to see their shocked face. I don't get to see the amazement. The parents do. That's my gift to them. They get to see it. They get to see proper magic done right in front of them, and it's beautiful. And I don't get to see that. But for me, that's really important because of what my granddad gave me that gift, and now I want to give it to everybody else. Does that make sense?
Yep. Very good choice indeed. And that brings us to your two curveball items. So, what's in your book position?
And it's got to be a magic book. And this is going to be so vain of me. It's one of my books. And it's Maxim's Primer, which I just think is one of my favourite books that I've ever written. And I still read it now. I open it often and it inspires me. I wrote it during lockdown, or most of it during lockdown, and I found it. I wrote it with the intention of inspiring, because at that time, everything was. I'd just seen my diary empty. I'd seen a lot of work disappear. I was very down, very upset about that, and I was trying to stay positive for my daughter Charlie, and that's hard when you've got no money coming in. I wanted to inspire, and selfishly, I wanted to inspire myself more than anything, more than anybody else. I wrote the book for me, and then a few tweaks, and that enabled me to put it out afterwards. So yeah, it would be Maxim's Primer by me. It's just my favourite magic book. I think there is. If I had to pick one that wasn't mine, it'd be the Encyclopedia Card Tricks by Walter P. Gibson. Walter P. Gibson's a massive hero of mine. Did you know that he wrote the first superhero comic book? Yeah. Alec Baldwin made a movie about it. It's called The Shadow. And The Shadow, he uses... in the movie, it's explained that he's using hypnosis to cloud the minds of his enemies, so he appears invisible and he can appear out of the shadows and nobody knows he's there. It's a really good movie. It's a very low budget movie, but a really good movie. Baldwin does it well. But yeah, he predates Superman and Batman and all the other superheroes. The Shadow knows. The Shadow was, if not the first, one of the very first comic book superheroes. So his book, he was also a magician, Walter B. Gibson, a great card magician and cabaret magician, and I've got most of his books upstairs, and yeah, he's awesome. So yeah, either Maxim's Primer, or if I'm not allowed to have that, the Gibson book.
You can have Maxim's Primer. If that's your choice, that's your choice.
Yeah, there we go. Boom.
And that brings us onto your item. So what is the non-magic item that you use for magic?
So this was really difficult. Hopefully you'll let me have this actually. Um, Only because I use it a lot in all my shows, and it's something that all magicians use. But I do manipulations with it and stuff like that. Would be a Sharpie, and I do a lot of Sharpie manipulations. I do a lot of I do the flipstick moves and other bits and bobs, and yeah. So yeah, my non-magic item to use with magic would have to be a Sharpie. Yeah, I love it.
Yep, I don't think it's one that we've had, but it's one that I thought we would have when we started doing the podcast. I did think a Sharpie would come.
You know, it's one of those things where you can just do so much with it. You can make it disappear, make it appear, stick it up your nose, put it out your ear. I multiply them. I make them look like I'm pulling more of them out. And obviously, then you've got tricks. I mean, there's one very, very good trick that uses a Sharpie. An amazing trick. If you've not checked it out, the creator's lovely guy as well. It's called Look Sharp by Alakazam Magic. A very, very good trick. I can't recommend that one highly enough. But yeah, Look Sharp for me. Look Sharp came from the place of wanting to do more magic with a Sharpie, and it is an everyday item. You know, it's a lovely pen that magicians started using more and more because spectators. It's probably the most famous pen now for spectators. You get a Sharpie out, they instantly recognise it for what it is, which makes our job a lot easier. If you go back 20 years, Sharpies weren't that well known, or 30 years, Sharpies weren't that well known in the UK. So you get a Sharpie out and people are like, oh, what's that? That's a good marker pen. Where'd you get that from? Whereas nowadays, like everyone and their dog's got one. So yeah, Sharpie would have to be my non-magic item.
Great choice, yep. And a great list, really diverse. It's a big display of the sort of magic that you're into as well. There's some sort of, I would say they're probably kids and family routines, really, mostly. But it shows that it all packs flat into a case and you've got a massive show straight away.
My kids show, even though it's aimed at young children, I often say to people, oh, there's going to be a lot of parents there. I'm like, that's fine, they're going to enjoy it as well. My kid show is designed and structured so the adults get as much enjoyment out of it as the kids do. So even though like Man in the Moon is obviously a children, it looks like a cartoon moon, cartoon clouds. It's obviously a kid show. I do the washing machine, you know, but then I've also got things like the linking loops. I've got a couple of my own tricks in there that I'm going to be releasing later on in the year, next year, kids' routines, and they're all in there as well. But even though they're designed for kids, the adults enjoy them as well. And that's really important to me because I don't want them sitting at the back gassing and nattering and making a distraction. And equally, I don't want them sitting there bored out of their head because some fat bloke's jumping around in front of them trying to be funny. I want them to enjoy what I'm doing and be part of what I'm doing and go away thinking, I want to book him for my son's birthday or my daughter's birthday because I know my other half or the family members are going to enjoy it as well. It's a show for everybody as opposed to, you know, just for the children. It's got to entertain everybody there. So for me, that ticks all those boxes. And yeah. So, but yeah, I wanted to do something that there's some close-ups, some stand-up, some stage, you know, some mentalism. I think that's all in there. I mean, you do a nice bit of mind reading with the insurance card. You got nice cabaret items. There's loads you can do, absolutely loads. And I think, yeah, for me, that's what's important.
So if people want to find out more about you, Wayne, where can they go?
Why would they? They can check me out on Facebook, Wayne Goodman, or they can go to my Instagram, which is just Wayne Goodman Magician, I think, or Wayne Goodman. You'll find me on there. Or they can go to www.waynegoodman.co.uk. And if they want to check out any of my tricks, they can go to wgmagicshop.com. But to be fair, a lot of my tricks that I've released are on the Alakazam site. So if you buy them from Alakazam, then you will obviously get points for your Alakazam purchases and things. So yeah, go and check them out and have a look. Lots of great stuff on there.
And at the very beginning, Wayne mentioned his Spongeball routine where he adds them. That is going to be an upcoming, well, it depends when this episode goes out. It will be an upcoming course on Unlimited. It's already recorded. If you go to the courses section, you'll see it's already there, ready to go. But the videos are not live yet. So when it's ready to go, members will get a email about it going live, and the dates will then appear on that course. So you'll see the dates that each lesson is added. So yeah, do go check that out.
I think we need to get a date booked in as well. I'll come down and we'll film a second one, and we'll move on to a bit more advanced stuff with the sponges and different vanishes and moves and different ways of doing things. Yeah, I love them. You know, I mean, I'm playing with one now in my hand. It's there's always a sponge ball at hand. I've got 3 over there. I've got in the other room, and it's just, I think magicians look down their nose sometimes at sponge balls because they think of sponge balls and they think of the magic dong, which I don't use the dong. I don't really think it's funny, but the actual normal sponge balls I think are great, and they're just a fun little item. And people go, oh, that don't make any sense. Why would you have that? Well, we have a lot of things in magic, but why would you have that? Why would you have a wallet that opens that way, or things like that? We try and make them look as normal as we can, but some of the things are still quite obscure. And sponge balls, I've never had anybody question them. I've got a sponge ball. Why not? And to be fair, nowadays I think they're more acceptable than anything because people have all sorts of fidget spinners and fidget toys and stuff. And I've had people say, "Is it like a stress ball?" Yeah, that's what it is. Yeah, that's exactly what it is, mate. Thank you for that. Yeah, stress ball. And look, it's gone. There we go. Boom. So yeah, I think it's well worth getting out and having a play with because Spongeballs are great. And check out the course, which is coming very soon.
Well, thank you for joining us, Wayne, and thank you for giving us your list.
Thank you for having me.
And thank you all for listening. We will hear from you all again next week on another episode of Desert Island Tricks. Bye-bye.
Hello guys, I'm here to talk to you about Alakazam Unlimited. This is the best streaming platform in the world, I'm telling you now. With Alakazam Unlimited, you get access to over 150 magic routines. This is video performances and explanations. We have card magic, coin magic, kids magic, rope magic, mentalism, stage, parlor, impromptu. We've got you covered. All of this for the low price of just £4.99 a month, and you can cancel at any time. Perfect if you've got commitment issues. Yes, I'm talking to you. Guys, you are going to absolutely love it. If you haven't joined the platform already, what the heck are you doing? Alakazam Unlimited is a streaming platform that you need to be a part of. Not only that, there is also exclusive content only available on the platform. Check it out now, alakazam.co.uk. Cheers.